Hello everyone and welcome back to the book Refuge. It is the next morning from all those other reviews you have seen. It is a beautiful snowy day here in Fargo. Glad I don't gotta go nowhere. And I got me some chai tea and my Lady Whistledown mug. And we're starting the back half of episodes review-wise. So this one was pretty interesting. So we're talking about episode 5, The Duke and I, which is fun because it is the title episode name. Diamond and Diamond. That is a couple name, Diamond. There we go. Look at me. Simon and Daphne get married in this episode. However, in regards to book to show adaptation, this is probably the least accurate / most frustrating for me so far that we've had. And I think it's because we have a lot of other plots getting in the way of what I love, as well as we've added some things, some angst, some feelings, some conversations that just really frustrated me. So it was actually kind of hard to have a top 5 moment for this one. And in fact, 2 of them are basically the same, and I just separated them into 2. So starting to enter some areas where I might be a little more salty than normal. So that's a thing. But let's go through my top 5 moments and then we'll dive into the long list of book inaccuracies and changes, and maybe a little bit ranty, maybe not. Maybe we'll just discuss. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. I'm fresh and spry this morning, so you might just get more sass than normal. That's how it goes. So, all right. The first standout moment I want to talk about is the conversation at the church with Antony and Simon. They show up to see the Archbishop to get the special license. This is something that it was kind of cool to see them go there, because getting a special license is kind of the Vegas marriage option that happens in historical romances. And it happens a lot when we have characters that need to get married quickly, because generally, and if you look into the history of this, the way that things went is that you would read the banns at church. I think you would do it once a week for 3 weeks, and then you could get married the 4th week. And that's like the bare minimum of time you were supposed to take to get married. And so this was to leave, like, to read the banns was like basically to do an announcement at church. You would do it every Sunday, and they would like list people who were going to be married. And so it would give people time to protest it or to change your mind, or I'm sure there are much more specific reasons. You're not here for a history lesson. I'm giving you the romance reader version of like what you'd need to know were you to read one, and they'd say, oh, we got a special license, or oh, we need to wait for the banns to be read. So the bare minimum of time it should be is about a month, because you would read it every Sunday for 3 weeks, and then you could get married on the 4th week. But what would happen a lot of times, if someone was compromised or they wanted to rush it through, you could go see the Archbishop of Canterbury, or I think you only had to go to him. Someone can maybe answer this, but and you would have a reason. So you could say, you know, we need to get married because there could be a baby coming, or we know there's a baby coming, or we just don't want to wait because this or whatever reason, and he would grant it to you. And so that is a thing that just gets mentioned offhandedly quite a lot in romance novels. And you would just do it. Like, it happens all the time so that people can just get married. And honestly, the higher up you were in rank, the easier it was to get, because the higher you are up in the aristocracy, the easier it is for you to pull those strings. They usually are very expensive. But anyway, it's something that you'll see happen if you are just going to dive into Regency books after watching The Duke and I, or if you're going to read The Duke and I, or any of the other books. I think it happens in like quite a few of them, because it's just a thing you do. Like, once they decide to get married, people want to like skip to the part where they get married. So there's usually a special license. And the reason this was a top moment, even though it's not completely book accurate, is that we get to see a conversation between Antony and Simon where they're kind of making up with each other. And Antony's like, I'm sorry that I was, shooting at you. And he's like, you have nothing to apologize for. And then Antony's like, we need to talk about her dowry, because a dowry, if if you don't know, is an amount of money that a woman has that she brings to her husband. So when you see fortune hunters, when you see men trying to get a woman with a dowry, that is usually the really important thing. And Daphne has quite a large one because she's the oldest daughter of a Viscount. However, Simon, already being rich, he doesn't need her money. And in fact, he is like, I'm kind of insulted that you think I need to be paid to marry her. Let that money stay as hers. And now that is a pretty big deal. And he mentions put it in a trust for her. And later on, we'll see Antony say that, because this is a conversation that we don't see. I can't remember if we see it between Antony and Simon, but we hear Antony tell it to Daphne, where he's like, he actually refused your dowry, and I'm going to put it into a trust, and you can use it for you, or you can use it for your kids. And that's like a hard thing for Daphne, because she has just been told that she will not have children, not knowing why, but trusting that Simon isn't lying about that. More to come on that later, or in a future episode. But I really like that scene because these men were really good friends, and I like that they are kind of having a making up with each other, and that we can all be like, excuse me. We can all be like, yeah, we don't need to be enemies. We're friends. We're now going to be brother-in-laws. It's great. So that is one of my favorite moments from this. A next favorite moment of mine is actually when we go meet the Queen. So this is completely not a book accurate thing at all, because in the show, we have them get denied for their special license. And so Lady Danbury pops up and is like, well, the reason that's happening is the Queen is pissed at you that you didn't do what she wanted, and that was to marry her nephew. And so she's like, go to her and plead your case. The Queen is a good woman. Just go and do it. And so anyway, though this is like book inaccurate, I really did like that we see Simon kind of pour out his heart. Daphne thinks he is, maybe lying about this and being a really good actor, but he says that Daphne is his friend and that they were he basically spills his guts to the Queen and was like, this is what was happening. We were kind of fibbing, and then I realized that she's my best friend and I want to be with her, and to find someone who's beautiful and wonderful and is my friend, I don't know what else that I can be looking for. And I really like this because it does sum up a lot of things that I feel like have been missing from the show, but something you will always hear reviewers of TV shows or movies say, it really needs to be a show, don't tell. And that's something we'll talk about in my differences that are annoying me, is that all these things that Simon is feeling, I've seen little pieces of them. Like, they have showed us, some of my favorite parts have been their banter and their sweetness together, but they've really been very angsty, so much more angsty than the book. The book has angst in different ways. But Simon and Daphne's, friendship is something that I love. And I said this in a previous review for the show, that they really made them, enemies to friends to lovers. And Simon and Daphne are never enemies in the book. They never have the cutting remarks that they say to each other. And so, I don't know, it was nice of him to admit that he feels that way about her, but Daphne's just really shocked. And it's fair that she's shocked, because when have we seen him do that, Anyway, but I love that moment, and I love that we had just recently seen, Queen Charlotte with George, and it is sad that George is going crazy. The Regency. And it is funny that we're in the Regency period and we're seeing Queen Charlotte, but we're not seeing the regent at all. We're only seeing George and Charlotte, who, the reason that there is a Regency, why it's called the Regency, in case you didn't know this, I actually do have a video explaining the terms of historical romances if you would like to know more, if you're new to this. But the Regency was a period of I think it was 11 years where King George was ruled incompetent, and his oldest son, which you'll hear referred to as Prinny or the Regent, he was effectively running the country while his father was insane. And that's why it's called the Regency, because it was a period of time where King George was still alive, but he was not able mentally to run the country. So it was really sad to see. I did like that they showed it, because we had heard in an earlier episode, Lady Danbury mentioning, how the king falling in love with Charlotte was so good for their kind of people, because it showed that love could conquer all, and then, you know, Simon has his stuff. So it was nice to see them have just at least one scene together where she thinks he's having a coherent day, and you can just see how happy she is to have her love with her for just a little bit of time, and then quickly he, like, forgets who he is again. And so anyway, backstory to that, because then the queen says, she's like, I am happy to hear that you realize friendship needs to be the basis of a good marriage, even though it can easily crumble at the drop of a hat, which, I mean, I don't agree with that sentimentality, but it is kind of like a foreshadowing of Daphne and Simon, that they may have a basis of friendship, but I think that they need it to be a basis of friendship and trust. And we are, you know, that hasn't been established well yet, because they've been all subterfuge and lies to each other, and that's just going to continue on. But I did, you know, as a top moment, I did like that scene, because I liked Queen Charlotte being a little vulnerable in a way too, of being like, I had a friendship and love, and it's gone. And now it's made me worried about the ton instead of other stuff. And so that was really sad but beautiful. Then another moment that needs to be a top moment, and is very important, because it is again showing the ignorance of Daphne and of all women at that time. Not all, but probably the upper class or the more privileged women who have nothing to do with men until they are married. And after the wedding has already happened, Daphne is up in her room. Violet really waited till the last minute for this conversation as well. Like, what if Daphne hadn't snuck up to her room? And so Violet is explaining her wedding day, and very inaccurately. And I guess the thing is that seeing the scene, I just want Violet to tell her already, right? Like, you are just like, Mom, just explain what the P and the V are and what's going to happen. Because how does it help anyone for you to be this ignorant? And I know we're supposed to feel that frustration. I think it did it very well. And it was funny that she referred to it dogs, like she's trying to think of it, and she's like, well, you know, those two dogs, in fact, those Basset hounds we had, which is cute because Simon Basset, like Daphne's last name is now Basset. And she's like, nobody had to explain it to them, and there were still puppies. So Daphne's like, so the purpose of this act is babies. And Violet jumped on that. She's like, yes, that's the purpose. And so we see this dichotomy of Violet is too shy or nervous to explain that, because what the line that they don't say is because in the book, Daphne goes one step further and she's like, so the point of the act is to have babies. So you've only done it 8 times, right? Because her mom has 8 children. And then Violet's like, no. And so then Daphne's like, okay, but you just said the purpose of the act is to have babies. And so I feel like in the show, they didn't want to push that conversation to the next, because in the book it's a little ridiculous that Daphne is just like, can you please someone help me out here? So it is uncomfortable to watch too, because you just, you know, the show does a good job of like, you don't realize how big of a deal it is that she doesn't know until you'll be faced with it in the next episode. Because the next bit that we're going to see, which I've combined, this is the one that I needed to combine moments 4 and 5 together, because it's one long scene that is my favorite. And that, of course, is the confrontation in the inn. They end up having to stay in an inn for their wedding night, and Simon had got them separate rooms, and he's just staying away from her. And finally, Daphne says something, and she's like, I realized you just want us to be awkward together, but like, I've been trying to talk to you since we got engaged and you just ignored me. And he is saying that like, I know that I trapped you. And she's like, I trapped you. And he's like, no, I trapped you. I know what you want and I can't give it to you. And so I can't bear to see the disappointment in your eyes. And he's like, I burn for you. And she's like, dude, if you would have looked at me for 5 seconds, you would see that I am just so gone for you. And that I burn for you the same, and you've just cut me out. And so then we initiate Operation Deflower Daphne, and Simon is very sexy with it. It's very sexy. It's great. And anyone who hasn't read the books will think it's very sexy because the actor is delicious. He's got some man pecs going on. Daphne, we all wanted to touch them. I love when she puts her hand there, just like, girlfriend, just squeeze those. They look great. And he was like, what do you think about when you touch yourself? And she's like, I can't tell you that. And it's great. And it happens. And one thing I will say is, having already have seen the next episode, Simon really only shows her the one thing, and he doesn't really prepare her very well, and I feel like this was a missed opportunity. And I get, since it's like the pinnacle of the episode, we're not exploring a bunch of things, but as I was watching it, I had the book out, and this is like a 20-page sex scene where they are bantering, and they're kind of like making fun of each other. She thinks that the reason he's been putting off sex with her is that he's impotent, and she's like, I won't tell anyone. And he's like, no, we can still do it, and it's gonna be great. Like, I'm gonna satisfy you, it's gonna be real good. But he pleasures her a lot first. He like warms her up really good, and it's a beautiful scene in the book, and it's filmed very beautifully, and it looks great. But if you have read the books, we are missing the connection. Like, they're really hot, especially Simon's really hot. But I was just listening to Learning the Tropes review of the first 2 episodes, and like, I'm so enamored with Simon because I think he's just delicious. But there's not a ton of actual chemistry between the 2 actors. Like, there's much more chemistry between like Sienna and Anthony, or I don't know. So it's a really sexy scene, and it's delightful, and we're going to see a lot of fucking in the next episode. It's going to happen. But upon rewatch of this, I'm like, there's no talking, there's none of the banter, there's none of the, like, all the sexy things that Simon said. Like, seriously, if we'd had this actor say some of the things, like, Simon dirty talks in the book. He's like, tonight I'll make you mine. And he's like, your smile just lights up your whole face. Like, he is just a panty burner before we've even got to the main event. And I miss their banter and friendliness. And it's something that then when things go bad, we really miss. Like, it is an absence. Whereas with these 2 characters, I feel like the only thing they do have is the physical parts of it. At least they had a little banter in the beginning, but ever since, like, it's all just physical. It's like he doesn't have anything else to say to her. And that's a problem for me, because one of the realizations Simon comes to is that he just wants to be around Daphne, and I don't feel like we'll ever see that. So this is where some things majorly start to diverge. So anyway, those are my top moments. Now we got to talk about some things that weren't great and or were changes. Some were good changes, some were not, but most I wasn't a big fan of, and this really kind of escalated in this episode. And I think why is because from this point on in the show/book is some of the best conversations and like really tough stuff we'll deal with. And I don't know if the show does it any better. Like, I think they were so worried about changing. We won't get there yet. We'll save it for next episode, because in the next episode we'll have some stuff to say. So some things. Starting at the beginning, like, again, I don't really like the Eloise and Daphne bickering and how, like, sharp they are with each other, and that Eloise belittles Daphne wanting to find a husband, like, so much. I understand that's not Eloise's dream, but, like, it is Daphne's dream. Like, she isn't just doing this because society expects it. Like, Daphne also wants a family and children. And for Eloise to belittle that, I think it's a fair argument that happens a lot when there are women who would rather be homemakers than do other things, and they get shamed for that they are submitting to a man and not having their own ambitions. And I just don't think that that is the case all the time. Also, as I've been saying, there is no banter between Daphne and Simon. Like, he does get drunk in the book. Like, after that night, he gets drunk. But then he sobers up, and he brings her flowers, and he buys her a ring, and he still comes to visit her, even though she's like, oh, I didn't know you were going to come to visit before we got married. And he's like, well, I'm your betrothed. Like, I want to see you. And there is fun moments with her family, and none of that is here. It's so grim. It's so grim. And like, Simon still has those worries in the book, but once he decides to marry her, he decides to make the best of it. And he's like, you know what? This could be fun. Like, she is a great woman, and I'm going to please her as best I can in every other way. Since I won't be giving her kids, I'm going to make her happy in every way that I can. And I don't feel like we see that. Again, the Marina Thompson, she really is trying to trap Colin now, and there's a really uncomfortable situation where Penelope's like, Colin is my friend and I don't want him trapped into this marriage. And Marina's like, so do you want me to trap a bad person? Like, I need someone to be my husband, and Colin will be a great father and a great person. But then Colin wants the wedding to take a while because he wants to give her a good future. And she still hasn't admitted why she needs the wedding to happen so soon. Which, Marina, it's going to bite you in the ass. I already said the special license doesn't get denied in the book. Everything is fine with that. This is where, like, Queen Charlotte injecting herself into the story is just, like, annoying to me. It was a moment to force Simon to say stuff that he felt because we can't see in his mind. But he's just being such an ass. It's, like, hard to feel for him. We never see King George in the books, not a thing. There is this underlying thread being started now that the Queen wants Eloise to find out who Lady Whistledown is. That is a plot thread we're going to see now for the rest of the season. I don't really have a problem with it. But again, like, Eloise is trying to find her just on her own, because she wants to know, because she's a nosy woman. And then, yeah, I wrote it in my notes initially. I said, there is no easiness. It's been made very angsty, which is the same thing that I wrote in my notes the second time. So it's kind of funny. And yeah, that's my overall impression right now, is that it's been made very broody. And that was something that, you know, if you watched my trailer reactions to it, that I was worried about tone. And I feel like in the first one, the tone was mostly what I wanted. But now that we're getting more serious about the romance and, like, bedroom stuff, we've just lost any of the humor, because we have the stuff with Marina happening that's really serious. We have Antonia not getting the woman he wants. That's very serious. We have Daphne not feeling that Simon appreciates or loves her or wants her, and that's very serious. And so there's just so much seriousness, and I'm missing all the light tone, and we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. But yeah, so this is the first one that it's like almost a miss for me. Which is hard. I feel like I've had a pretty good attitude about everything, and I still think that if people don't know that tone from the book and they don't know, that they'll appreciate this. But then when people pick up the book, they'll be like, oh wow, this was so funny and lighthearted. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be funny and lighthearted, and we're missing that. But we're about to see a lot of Simon butt and Daphne boobs, and, you know, it's going to be great. We'll see how it is. And next episode, we'll talk about the scene. And I have a lot of thoughts on that. And I'll let you know how I think the show handles it. And more about the debate that has been going on, you know, about the books for the last couple years. Really, you know, as, again, we'll get to this more deeply in that one. But I've been a fan of these books for 12 years, almost 12 years. And so my opinion over things have went like this over time. So we'll see. But anyway, thank you for watching this. The next, I'm filming them all today, but the next one should be up tomorrow. And thank you so much for sticking around for all of these, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.